Good afternoon, everyone. So I'm glad that you guys have come through. My name is Ntebo Mbanjwa. Wanted today to showcase some really exciting work around your millionaire identity. We've got two more speakers after myself. I will open it up just to touch base around some aspects around mindset and heart set around your millionaire identity. Dr. Joe to start tapping into some of the insight from his Knowledge Millionaire program that just further enhances how you shift towards that millionaire identity. And then we will have our last speaker, Ms. Tato, who will then be also giving a perspective around how do you fine tune and really shift into this millionaire identity. I will start talking a bit around your millionaire identity and start tapping into some of really beautiful frameworks and lessons that I actually went through that that catapulted me into sort of this millionaire identity. And the idea with this concept, right, is that the transformation really happens from the inside, then it gets into the outside. So it's an inside game. But let's tap into the piece of work. So in the Naledi Institute, we do have a blueprint, a millionaire identity or identity shifting blueprint that we usually use that really helps you to make sure that you get alignment and you start shifting from an identity perspective. And in the last masterclass, we sort of shared a view of that, but I think we will get into it again, but this time using the lens of how you then start using this to tap into your millionaire identity, right? Now, the first piece that I found when I started to shift from my old mindset around money into the new mindset was awareness was a big piece of this piece of work, right? So understanding what my current financial mindset is, understanding what are some of the beliefs that I have about finances and money, and they're always an interplay when I talk in the language, in the actions. The remnants of what my beliefs are about money are always there, right? So when it came to awareness, one of the most powerful questions that I learned that I had to ask myself is I had to understand what are some of the old patterns that I'm carrying, right? And where am I playing small when it comes to money or taking big risk in terms of creating wealth? So that was one thing that I really had to ask myself when we get into the awareness piece. But we'll tap into that later on as well as we engage, right? Then the second piece really is when I start thinking around having this millionaire identity, I now need to start asking, where does spirit come in here? Because I think in the last session, we did discuss that the one thing that you end up understanding yourself around being a limitless being is you're not just this body that you see in front of you. There is more to you. There are almost like three parts to what makes you be a human, right? There's your spirit, which is your direct correlation to God, to divine. Then you got your mind or your intellectual mind. And then lastly, you then have your physical body, right? So those three parts, spirit, mind, and body, must always be connected and realign so that you then start shifting the identity that you want, right? So when we start looking at spirit, there you understand that as a person, you are abundant, right? Forget what's on your banking app. Forget what's in your bank account at the moment. As a spirit, as a human being, you are made of abundance, all right? And even the ancient sort of textbooks or wisdom that we see, like even if you go back to the days of Adam and Eve, they were planted in a Garden of Eden that was filled with trees and fruits around them. Again, displaying this element of being abundant. There was always abundance around you, right? So you yourself are abundance. And the one big thing that I really needed to learn here when I started to connect for my own personal journey in terms of shifting was I needed to understand my worthiness, right? Not worthiness based on how people saw me or how people contextualize me, but my worth at just being a being and a spirit, as well as understanding my power in the fact that when I pray, and this was the one thing that when I was growing up, a prayer was seen as a pleading, as an please, I'm asking you, and it's from a scarcity mindset. What I learned from this process, especially when it came to spirit, is that you got to start learning to release that scarcity prayer and immediately shift to gratitude. right? So you wanting to manifest a house or you wanting to be a millionaire, right? You go into prayer, not into, I please God, can I win the lotto? Or please can I, not from that scarcity mindset. Because then from an emotional sort of spectrum, you're now moving into a fear state. When you even pray and you connect with your divine, you go in already thanking, right? I'm grateful, God, that I've already manifested or created the $1 million, or I've already created the home. You go in with gratitude, with thank you, because that shows the divine that you already know that it is done, right? It is done. And that's an important shift that I actually had to learn even in my own journey. The mind is also a very big piece and a tricky piece when it comes to starting to work through your mindset around wealth creation and knowing yourself as abundance. Because what you find in your mind, in your thoughts, in your beliefs, in how you see yourself, in how you self-talk, there's a lot of limiting beliefs that you have sort of inherited over time and over generation that's at play. And that usually becomes like a wall, right? So what I had to learn, like a big lesson for me when it came to the mind, that I had to understand that my mind is almost like a garden, right? That there are seeds coming in from the divine or from opportunities at all time. And I then have an opportunity to intentionally plant abundance seed and weed out the doubts, right? But what I used to do as my old self is that I used to plant all the weeds, all the negativity. What if this happened? Will I make it through to the 25th? When is my next paycheck? Can I afford to do this? So I was always planting weeds instead of planting abundance and then weeding out or pulling out weeds, right? So your mind becomes one of your biggest collaborators that you really have to work through a lot, right? Then we said what you then need to shift as well is start shifting how you live in the new identity of a millionaire, if that's what you're wanting to build. So what I used to believe with regards to your identity and your millionaire identity is I needed to have the R1,000,000 in my account or in my investment portfolio to then say, yes, I'm a millionaire. I take on this identity. I'm going to start behaving like a millionaire. What you actually find out, even from your big billionaires, is that they live the identity, they make the decision from someone that's already a billionaire or a millionaire before even the funds come in. It's when you act in faith that then all the abundance is then attracted to you, right? So that was one shift that I really learned. But let's go in deeper. I just wanted to just portray that framework again. Let's start digging into awareness, and I want to teach awareness, but really tapping into my own personal journey, right? So the one thing that I also picked up when I started to think around my financial map, that I call it, is that I inherited a lot of my beliefs around finances from my grandmother, my mother, my stepfather, my grandparents. So there was a lot of people, almost like voices in my head of how they've always said, you must treat money, how you must behave around money. But the thing is, it's so subtle that you don't even realize that the thoughts and the beliefs that you have about money are not even your thoughts anymore. That it's something you heard your grandfather say, it's something you heard your mother say, that it becomes part of your consciousness and your belief, right? So that was the one thing that I realized, that those inherited beliefs become such a big hidden stumbling block for me, right? So I had to face that as a challenge, first of all, right? So most of those habits that I had around money, that is going to run out, that I have to save, was really passed down from my grandparents and my parents, right? And they formed this, what I call an old money map. But this old money map was so secretive that it guided how I make decisions about money and handle money without me being even conscious of it. Right? So now what happens is these outdated family beliefs lives in you. Now, your grandparents and your parents lived in a different generation. They worked at certain roles for survival. So those behaviors and those limiting beliefs worked for them. But now you inheriting all of those things from that context. You now work in a fancy company, but you're still bringing in those thoughts. So you're bringing in that limitation as well. So the one of the most important thing is to understand that those limiting beliefs, like money is scarce or being anxious about money or worrying about it was ingrained in your subconsciousness when you were young. And it's so subtle that sometimes you can't tap into it until later on in life. So that it's very important that you also get that, right? And then what I then needed to understand is that if I then understand, so I might think there's not enough money or money is scarce, but that maybe is not actually my own belief, right? I just took on someone's belief and I made it my own. So how do I then break free from these old beliefs or these old money maps and start building a new money DNA, right? That will enable me to then move into the next millionaire sort of mindset, if that's the thing. What is that? How does that look? And how do I do that? Right. And that's a journey I then had to take on my own. Right. So first of all, I had to admit and recognize that I inherited some of those patterns. They were not mine. It was from my parents, because I grew up where my grandfather and my grandmother were pastors, right? So money was seen as something that you didn't really need. All you need is you need love, you need service, and people will sort of be nice and sort of give you things by. And if you tended to like money or want to have money, that was seen as a bit of unholy in a sense, right? You had to be humble. Be humble and able. So that's started planting seed in my own mind. And that sometimes shows up in different ways, right? That humbleness, right? Where I remember my very first job that I got in one of the tire manufacturing company. The recruitment guys asked me, okay, what is your salary expectation? It was the first time I was ever asked about money and what I think I was worth. So I said, whatever you think I'm worth, right? And the contract that was sent to me, then my very first, I think, salary was around 10,000 Rand. For me, it seemed like a lot, and I didn't want to feel like I needed to question that. But what I then learned later on is my other counterparts that had different money stories and money beliefs, that didn't have this humbleness when it comes to them. They understood their worth. They understood the expertise that they bring. They would negotiate. I learned that they would ask, okay, I see the market. Actually, you should be paying me 20,000 Rand. And that's what I negotiated. I didn't know you could do that. So you see those inherited patterns slowly then starting to dictate how you live life and then kind of pulling you towards a specific financial roadmap, right? So that was the first thing I also needed to learn. Then I realized that, well, hold on. If most of these beliefs around money, right, and what I'm worth and what I can earn are based on what my grandparents taught me or my stepfather or my mom, what's my money story? What do I want to believe about money? And the question and how you really shift that out, and I found what was a very powerful question, is you sit down and you ask myself, what would I believe about money if I grew wealthy? So that same table that was offered and was asked, what is your salary expectation? If she grew up believing she was wealthy and she grew up in a wealthy family, it wouldn't even be a thing for her. She would say, I know what my worth, my starting ask is from 2K. No question asked, because she already knew she came from wealth. Versus in Table, who had a lot of layers and limiting beliefs and stories that she had seen. So if you want to start creating your new money story, you got to start from a blanket approach of knowing that you already are wealthy. If you were wealthy, what would you then believe about money? Definitely wouldn't believe that money runs out, because it doesn't run out. You wouldn't believe that there's not enough money to go around, because there's more than enough to go around, right? And the important thing that I learned as I was going through this journey is, if I didn't do the work myself, then the generational understanding and money map would be passed on to my children and then to their children. And it will be this ever evolving cycle where scarcity and poverty is what's seen in our family. And it's like we've always been like that. So at some point, someone has to do the work, deep dive, and change that money story. Right? Then after you understand or you build your new money story, I then had to take my first bold step, because just writing a new money story is not enough. Then you got to start taking decisions from that perspective, right? So which financial decision I had to ask, have I been avoiding, right? That if I'm now basing it on my new money story, I would be making it. For example, opening up a business, right? Before, when I was in a humbleness, I would have never thought about opening up a business or starting anything of that sort. But in my new capability, knowing that I'm a millionaire at heart, I've already made the million, I've shifted. I know I'm an owner. I move from a mindset of I'm an employee to now being an owner. And that is the new money mind map that I want to start raising my kids, that they're not always like worker bees or 9 to 5 kind of people. They can be owners. They can create their own value into the world. So the point is, you're not just creating your new money story. There's got to be decision to start building that up. And I had to start small. Each week I had to take a small step that says, this is what a millionaire Deborah would do on a weekly basis. Just one action. She would build a website for her business. She would employ someone to design this. And that then builds up to starting to actually become a millionaire in most of your action. Cool. And then this becomes then your lived experience as a millionaire table. So that was the shift that I kind of had to do, right? But what also allowed me to start getting out of that old money mindset was a really powerful practice that we did that I would always suggest that you guys also do, is you write a letter to money, right? You write 2 letters to money. You write to money as an enemy or an unfavorable friend. Here you tell him money, your true feelings and your fears and your desires, right? That you have. That would be the first letter. Then the second letter will be a bit more kosher. Now you understand that you were dealing from your old identity. Now you're dealing from a new identity, and then you start creating. You're now building a new relationship with money, and then that letter looks a bit different, right? And we'll share a sample of some of those letters in the workbook that we'll share with you after the session. Money. So you really dig in deep there, and you actually, because you're telling those stories, you start letting them go, right? Okay, cool. So this is the first letter, and you'll have the full letter in the actual workbook, but just a few extras that we thought we could share. So a letter to my money, a misunderstood friend. And this was from my old identity, right? So here we go. Dear money, if my life is a mirror, then scarcity of money in my life is a reflection of our complicated relationship. When it comes to my income, there's a ceiling or a limit that I always seem to hit, right? And the answer lies in me understanding my relationship with you and how I relate to you, as a friend or as a foe, right? My inability, for example, to pay my kids' school fees, or my ability to run out of petrol in the middle of the month, or to worry whether my salary will last me up until the end of the month, is all a reflection, right? That there are limiting beliefs about money that I have. So this is a mirror of my money identity. As I reflect about my experiences with you, money, a memory that I had unconsciously blocked out a long time ago comes flooding in. It confirms my emotions and feelings about you, money. I am surrounded by fear. When I see you, money, I feel unsafe. I look at you and I fear you, and I fear that you will be gone. At the same time, I look at you and fear that I will be blamed. I will be criticized for having too much of you. Other people will probably say she thinks she's better than everybody, right? I fear that I will be chased. I will be blamed and scammed for having you in abundance. I fear that I will exploit other people for money and become unholy. You see, money, I grew up seeing this in my home from my stepfather from the ages of 9 to 19. My stepfather was seen as a wealthy man by most of my neighbors' standards, right? He owned taxis and he created employment within the community. Every evening, each taxi driver would cash up and record how much he had made for the day. Each evening, with no fail, my stepfather would be livid, sending terror and fear around the entire house. He would recount the money made by each driver, then angrily shout, "Is this all you made? This is not enough. Where's the rest of the money?" He would angrily shout at each driver, embarrass them, and bully them. All I could hear as a young child echoing is, "There's not enough money. There's not enough money." A seed was planted. There's not enough money, and money should be feared. At times, my stepfather would turn his anger towards my mother, accusing her of having taken some of the money from the drivers and hence why it was short. another seed was planted. Money is not safe, right? I recall this one time when my stepfather and his friend had caught a guy that had stolen money, apparently from them as the taxi association, and they had beaten this guy up really bad, and they ended up tying him up. And all of us kids could see this, right? So again, in my mind, subconsciously, another seed was planted. Money is not safe. Money means hurting others and putting money first, which then goes against my Christian value, again, of wanting to be holy. So when I grew up, in my household, money was used to harm. It was used to control other people, because my stepfather also used money to control my mom, right? It was used to intimidate other people that had less than, right? So money was used also as survival. So my mom would always say, let's see what the little we've got and make sure we've got enough food for us to last, right? But money was not a friend in my household growing up. Money did not equal love, not at all. Money was not used to create any positive experience or was not used as a tool for service to help others. As an outcome, when I received money and I started working, I got rid of it immediately. Spend it as quickly as I can. Give it away because there was guilt, there was shame, there was worry, there was anxiety. All of those things were planted because of what I had learned and had imprinted in my mind around what money means, right? And that's the power of then writing a letter out to money. And you don't write it once, because what you do is the more you write it, more and more things pop up. Things that your brain might have actually blocked off, right? And the more you do this, then you reiterate and then you pick up little remnants. Because my money story, what's blocking me will never be the same as what Sam has, will never be the same as what Andile has. We all have little pieces of things that have shaped us and have become roadblocks. So I can't then copy what Sam or Andile are doing and saying that's going to fix my money story or my money limiting beliefs. I've got to be brave. I've got to go in. And that's why we're saying if you want to start changing your identity around money, it's got to be an inside job. You cannot outsource it. You cannot templatize it. You have got to go in and start looking around what was your experiences that has taken you there. But if you do the work and you do it right, then you start changing your money story for your own kids, because then you start shifting. Because in this same narrative about my stepfather, you could have looked at him and said, he's the bad guy. But if you listen to his story, you realize how he was raised, what was believed in his household around money, that people are always taking you for granted, that they'll take advantage of you, that you got to get yours, you know? So again, it becomes like a generational thing that gets passed on until one person, which I'm hoping in this content is you, takes a stand, goes within, does the work, rewrite the money stories, and then starts a new sort of legacy when it comes to it, right? Then the next thing I wanted to share is once you've done the awareness piece and you know where your limiting beliefs are and what your money story and your money map is I wanted to then lean into this beautiful book called Your Parallel Selves by Frederick Dodson. He gives some amazing teachings to help you start shifting from now I'm aware what's been blocking you. How do I now shift into this millionaire identity, right? Now, he makes a very interesting insight in his book because he talks about the highway framework. So he says in life, there are multiple versions of Ntebo that exist. There are multiple versions of Sam that exist. There are multiple versions of Lwandile that exist. There is a Lwandile that is a millionaire as we speak. So she's literally, so think of it as a highway. She's driving on a highway of wealth and abundance and millionaire. There's a different Lwandile that is driving around a scarcity highway where money is hard to come by. There's scarcity along the way. There's another Andile driving on another highway. And what he says about this framework around the whole fact that there are multiple versions of you that exist is that you then have an opportunity. Just because I'm on this highway of scarcity and poverty and I'm driving in that highway and my experiences is short on petrol, don't have enough money for this, doesn't mean you carry on driving on that highway. You have an opportunity to be aware, this is not the experience I want to create from a financial perspective. Park your car on that highway, get out of the car and start thinking around, okay, what is then the new experience I want to create for myself from a financial perspective? And how do I then get off this highway? Because this is not where I want to go. This is not the same highway that I want my children to be driving and having the experiences. How do I start shifting and going into a more financially abundant highway? Right? And it's such a liberating concept of thinking there are multiple versions, because I grew up thinking my life is my life, my experience is my experience. Who I've been for years is how I was told. This is just life. This is what you were given as your lot in life, right? It didn't give you an options. You just carried on driving on that highway until you reach your last day on this earth. But to find out that you've actually got an opportunity at each junction of the highway to stop, pause, reflect. Where am I, first of all? Because I think there was another big aha moment that I learned, that in life, we become so busy. Because even in my own context, before I even met Dr. Joe, I was so busy in my own life, being a mom, being a wife, being a superstar at work, that you don't even have time to pause and think and listen to yourself. You're like stuck in a wheel. So if you can, once you get an opportunity to just pause and realize where you are and do the work, then you can start shifting, right? So Frederick says there is your millionaire self exists. And then how you get to that millionaire self, there's some identity work, emotions, and actions that you need to take. And we'll get into that when we get to that. So first of all, so now you understand Ntebo wrote that letter. She's got a lot of hang-ups around what she believes about money and what she's seen. And she can't just forget that. She's got to learn to understand that I'm here. Now I need to move into this millionaire identity. But she's never met this millionaire identity. She doesn't know what that looks like. So it's important, even in your own world, to define, okay, if I now had to step into this highway of a millionaire Ntebo, what does she look like? What does she do on a daily basis? What does her day look like, right? So the first thing that he said you must understand is, what is that mindset of that millionaire Ntebo, right? How does she think? Definitely she's not thinking, when is payday? That is not the narrative that you will hear, right? But what does she think about money? That you can generate money and create value at any point. She believes that money just flows through effortlessly. You don't have to grind for it. So there's a mindset that Ntebo has, right? What are the daily habits of this millionaire Ntebo? She's definitely not like the old Ntebo. Maybe her morning wealth affirmation, maybe she's got things that she says to herself each morning. She's got little alarms that she sets for herself that triggers things in her subconscious. Maybe she makes strategic investment. The fact that you open your own business and you invest in people like this, that's a strategic investment in a sense, in people's lives, in people's legacies. What value creation is she making? The old Ntebo that's busy, there's no way she's going to have time to get into these habits, right? Because she's got things to do. She's got kids to look after. She's very different. She's on that highway, that poverty highway, right? So this person then has different daily habits. So you got to be conscious of that as well. Right? Self-image is also a big piece, right? What does this Ntebo, this millionaire Ntebo, thinks about herself? She's not that humble girl that when she's asked, what do you expect as your salary? She says, I don't know, whatever you think. She's not that, because she's confident. She knows what she brings into the room. She's generous. She's decisive. I always used to say to Andelia, the one thing that I've learned from this piece of work is decisions matter. If you make decisions quickly, you're almost sending a message to God, to the universe, to spirit, that this is who I am, and then it's going to be yes, 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 yes. But if you get an opportunity and then your decision is no, or you delay the decision, then you're sending back a message to the universe that you're not ready. So all your things will be held up and they'll be slow. So they think differently, they decide differently, they carry themselves with authority. I'm not hiding things. I am who I am. You either take me as I am or not. So they've got a very different self-image. Their lifestyle is different, right? Now they understand they've got to delegate stuff. I remember I had the most terrible time with delegating, even from a home context. I could not, for the life of me, for example, even employ someone to help me with the kids or to help me with household chores, like a housekeeper. I couldn't employ one because my mother raised me up as a housekeeper. She used to look after other children and, clean people's homes. So for me, it felt like I was abusing someone. So I had a limiting belief to say, if you employ a housekeeper, you're thinking that they less them and you're actually abusing them. It was just a belief. I don't even know where it came from, because I know from my mother's perspective, the fact that someone gave her employment as a cleaner, as a domestic worker in her house, meant that we have a better opportunity, right? So it's these stories and these limiting beliefs that you start building, and you have negative, and they become barriers for you. So a millionaire, Debo, definitely delegates stuff. She knows she can't do everything, but she must spend her time where she's creating a lot of value, right? She networks strategically. Her 9 to 5 cannot be the only place that she goes in, and that's her whole life, right? She thinks differently. She creates lasting value to others, right? So there's things. So I also needed to understand that to move from this in table to the new highway of a million table, I need to understand how that person thinks and learns, right? And then some of the core principle from this parallel university that Frederick talks about is that the first thing that you got to understand, and I didn't know this about changing your money story or your millionaire identity, is your external world. Your external world always mirrors what you think about yourself and how you think about money, right? So I used to think the fact that I was working at DUT and earning, let's say, 15,000 Rand, right? It was because Dr. Joe couldn't fight for my increase, or my line manager didn't increase my salary, or whatever the case is. So it was always an external thing. I thought that was the reason. But what you then start learning when you do personal development work and this piece of work is that every single work that needs to happen happens internally. What you start seeing externally is a reflection. It's giving you clues around things that you're not doing internally, right? And you have to shift. So if you always think that I now have to push Dr. Joe to give me an increase and my land manager, and you think that's the solution, then you are sadly mistaken, right? So change your identity to change your financial reality is the one thing that he always says, Frederick says, right? Then it's a whole piece again, understanding that there is a parallel version of you that already exists, which means there's multiple possibilities of life that can happen for you. So what you need to start doing is vibrate at the frequency that will take you to the highway that you want. So I can't be sitting every day complaining about money, complaining about my boss, complaining about everything. So sitting in the emotional or vibration of negativity by wanting to be this millionaire. Because remember, what then spirit just hears is that, oh, she's negative. Oh, that means she wants more negativity. Oh, she's complaining about this person. She wants more complaining. She's fearful of money. So you got to move into a space where you're vibrating at a better frequency towards more love, towards more gratitude, and all of those elements. We'll touch on that later. Okay. So your emotion becomes a valuable bridge. So you're wanting to move from this highway, poverty highway, to more abundance highway. Your emotions that you play back every day becomes a really key manifestation bridge, or a bridge that you need to do. And then obviously your identity then starts building your reality. And I love the fact that Frederick spoke about that parallel university and multiple versions of you existing. Because even if you go back to the Bible, there's a beautiful verse there, the parable of the talents, right? Where Jesus relays the story to his followers. And he says there was a master that was going away on a trip. So he called his servants, right? He gave one servant 3 talents, okay, which is those coins. He gave one 2 talents, and then he gave the last one just 1 talent. The one that had 3 talents went, he invested his talents, he came back with 6, so he multiplied it. The one that had 2 also doubled it and invested it. But the one that had 1 was fearful, right? It was the old mindset around, I'm fearful, there's not enough, I can't get rid of this. So what he did is he hid it in the ground, right? He waited for his master to come back. And when his master came back, he said, I hid your money your talent because I knew if something happened to it, there's not enough of it, right? Because what then Frederick says is that the servants all received different amounts, like parallel selves, right? With different wealth levels. But those that invested it, so that in the wealth consciousness, millionaire consciousness, it multiplied for them. But those that were led by fear, who buries their talent, who say there's not enough money around, then you are trapped forever in that lackness, right? The fact that he thought he was being a good servant and taking the one and hiding it shows that he didn't trust. He didn't align with he lived from fear. And that's what we usually do with money a lot. It's running out. I'm fearful. Will I be, will I afford my next installment and all of those things, right? So that work is almost like supporting that as well. So you can see there's a lot of ancient wisdom that really confirms quantum physics, that your financial reality really responds to how you use your identity and your resources, right? So that was, again, the awareness piece. Then we start getting into your mind, right? That's where a lot of the work that needs to be done, right? That's where your thoughts are sitting every day, the language that you're using every day. I always say to Andile as well, your words build walls, right? Your words build walls. So the thing that you're saying that you think, it's just a joke, I'm so tired, I'm always broke, you are building more brokenness because you're using the language, and it also shows what you actually believe. So it's important that you start reprogramming your mind. So those thoughts, those beliefs, your identity, all of those things, right? And the first thing, just like you saw with the letter that I wrote to money, you need to identify those limiting beliefs, right? You move from money is hard to get to more, or things like rich people are greedy, because that's a limiting belief, to a more emotionally high vibrancy sort of beliefs. And you start replacing some of your old beliefs with new wealth statements. And I had to do that for myself and start building new truths for myself, so that I can start shifting into this new money story. And some of those ones that I think I had about 6 key ones. So the first money truth that I had to start believing from a mind and start planting into my mind is to understand that money never exists outside of me. Money is not outside. It's not what I see in the bank. It all starts with an internal gain, right? So I didn't come into this planet to chase money. That is not why I was created, right? My value just shows up daily by being who I am. And it's the same with your wealth. It doesn't start with your bank account. It starts with you internally, the energy, the confidence, and the value that you bring, right? It's an inside job. You work on the internal element and it starts translating externally. The second truth I had to also understand, which I fought for a very long time, is that money is actually a truthful mirror. The fact that you don't have money, that's a mirror of what's going on inside you, right? It's a reflection on your inner world. And that is always like a spiritual nudge for you, that you need to work on this. You need to work on this because there's something internally with you that's either saying you're not worth it or you got a limiting belief, right? So it reveals your deepest belief about money. You might say to people, I'm a hard worker, I really want money, right? You might be saying that, but the fact that you don't have money means there's something within you that's limiting it. There's deep-seated feelings that you haven't walked through, right? And my biggest one also growing up was I was not able to receive. Right. Now, I know people in this call as well that are not very good at receiving. So I would create a lot of value, do a lot of free services, but didn't really want to receive, was not open to receive. And remember, if you don't think you receive, and I think for some of us, especially women, it kind of gets trained into you. My first job is to look after my children, then to look after my husband, then my sisters and brothers, and you never have an opportunity to receive. And remember, the more you give and you're not open to receive, you're also sending a message back to the divine, right? And you say, the divine wants to give you, and you say, no, it's free. The more you do that, the more the divine says they not want to receive. So I don't think I'm going to send abundance anymore. It's always receiving and creating value. They go back. It's two of the same coin. You got to be open to both, right? Millionaire identity truth 3 that I had to work through is to understand. So I used to think I needed to chase money. I need to seek my push. I must push. I need to get more money. I need to work hard. And that in itself was counterproductive. The fact that I was chasing money and seeking money, because what that was doing, it was affirming that I lack money, that I'm saying there is not enough money. And saying there is not enough money or believing that means there's going to be more lack of money from my perspective, right? So what it did is, because I was chasing money, then I stopped the flow of money. It's like the river as well. If there's a flow of stream that's going in and you're busy trying to scoop it all up or contain it, you'll never get to it. You got to let it flow. Don't seek it. Let it come through you. Just be an open vessel to that, right? So you step into a space where you know money is part of you. You're not seeking money. You're not chasing money. It's not sitting out there. You are part of God, part of the universe, which made money, which means you are money as well. So it's nothing to really chase, right? The identity through truth 4 that I also had to learn and like deeply also understand is that I'm exactly like the ocean, right? I'm a boundless ocean of money, right? Like a drop containing the essence of the whole ocean, I also carry the abundance within me. So if I step into a room and it's all these executive rich billionaire, and I think, no, I don't belong in this space because I only earn 100K a month and these people are already earning R1 million a month. That in itself is showing that you do not know the essence of who you are. You are abundance as you are, just like a drop of ocean, right? Is part of the bigger ocean, right? You just have to believe differently. The fact that you may be making less than you think means you are misaligned to who you are. You're misaligned to some of the intuitive hits that God gives you that you ignore or you say you're too busy for, right? So that alignment piece becomes really critical. An identity truth 5 that I also had to learn, and I didn't do this a lot. When it comes to money, I was always stuck on a lot of scarcity, worry about money, a lot of those negative sort of emotional vibration. And what I then learned as I shifted into the millionaire sort of vibration is that I needed to sort of operate from a different frequency of fullness, of being grateful before I even had anything, of creating value, of giving back, but not only giving, but also receiving, right? That's when you vibrate at a higher level, right? When it comes to a flow of money. And then the last thing that I also had to learn was the law of inner transformation. That if I needed to get money, the change really needs to happen and transform internally. It's got nothing to do with everybody else. And reality always bends. Reality always changes once you truly change internally. And you can't fool the universe or fool God. You can sense the energy if you haven't really shifted, right? And I want to close down with this sort of like, because the slide from Bob Proctor, which kind of also takes all the components that we've spoken about around moving towards your millionaire identity, right? So he says, if you want to start moving into the millionaire mindset, you have to do all of these 4 things. First of all, your identity. The millionaire identity comes before the income. So if you're thinking you're going to get $1 million for $1 million before you shift and you feel like, yeah, and I'm a millionaire, then you got it backwards. You got to have that identity, live in that identity so that you can attract it, right? So who must you be so that you attract that? Then he says the next step is to go into your mental blueprint and you identify and reprogram those limiting beliefs. And I think the latter example that we just showed you around what could be sitting around some of the limiting beliefs and where they could come from becomes a really big piece around shifting some of your mindset. Then you act as if you already are that person. So your behavior, your identity, how you dress, how you speak, what you decide must already come from a millionaire sort of mind, not from someone that's not there. So, for example, you cannot say, I've got a millionaire identity. And we always talk about this with Palisa, but then you're going to spend the whole weekend watching Netflix only, sleeping, and then say, yeah, I've got, because then your actions are not aligned to what a millionaire who's creating value would be doing. So you start questioning even the little things that you're doing is this behavior aligned to a millionaire identity or is it not? And then you serve to earn. So if you want true wealth that comes, you've got to be able to add value, to solve problems at scale. So for example, if you think by me working at a 9 to 5, doing whatever job that you're doing is going to be enough for me to shift into a millionaire, then you got to think again. because you impacting what 100 people, 20 people in your team is not enough value that would shift you there. So now you got to start thinking, all right, in order for me to be blessed abundantly, what other value can I start creating outside of my 9 to 5? And that's going to start shifting you into the space, right? So that's my piece from my side. I know you guys already are millionaires. It's just of you guys getting off that highway of poverty and start shifting towards this millionaire identity. I'm gonna now hand you over to my own very personal coach, Dr. Joe, who then do the next segment for us. Dr. Joe, back to you.
Very, very impressive indeed. And since me and you drink from the same well, I think I agree 110% with everything you said. I'm making an observation here. Colleagues, good afternoon. Nice meeting you all. I recognize a few names and I just want to find out how many ladies do we have? I suspect we have 95% ladies in attendance. If you are a lady, a female, can you please raise your hand so that I can just see how many ladies, sisters, our sisters in the house, please raise your hands. I also want to make sure that you are in attendance and listening. Chantel must be a lady, Luandile Palesa.
I can't find my hand.
Yes, that was also an exercise to help you navigate and get your handles. But yeah, so we have more ladies who rise up and take advantage of opportunities. Our brothers are nowhere to be seen. I've been coaching for the last 15 years and it's the same story all the time. And it really touches me as to where is our brothers. And for the most part, the very same sisters who take initiatives and attend events to empower themselves, when they get home, the very same people who should be supporting them are the ones to give them tough time. So my question now is, what do we need to do to get our brothers to take up the challenge? I don't know. They are nowhere to be seen, but that's something we need to all reflect upon. Colleagues, thank you very much for taking this opportunity to come and listen. Let me set up my timer. I want to spend less than 20 minutes or 20 minutes of your time. Unlike what Ndewe said, I think I'll mostly share the frameworks on a high level. I'll start by praying.
Let's see that swim in the light of we thank thee every day that we were born with eyes to see. We thank thee for thy love, so good and so free, oh Lord.
You will blame my grandmother who always said, son, everything you do, you need to pray to the Lord, for he makes things happen without you even knowing. So with that song, I've prayed for all of you. May your wishes be answered. And it really, this is a millionaire mindset prayer. When we pray, we, the millionaires, we don't say, God, give me this, God, give me this. We approach prayer with a mindset of gratitude, even for the small things that you have. And when you give gratitude, the powers that be can see that you are very grateful and then you get blessed more. So millionaire mindset. This is another troubling thing that happens most of the time. And the message, by the way, I'm a DJ, so you're going to hear a lot of songs playing. Success is something that you attract by the person in the days. Back before I knew that statement, like Ntebu eloquated, that success is something that you attract through your thoughts, through what you say with your mouth, and then because you are a human being, not a human doing, you are a human being. Once you spend more time in the being state, you tend to attract things, especially if you align with all the universal principles and the universal law. So we need to change the mindset. The previous slide says, if you are just too busy running around, working very hard, because most of you know, granted, you are already working hard. If you don't have the results to show it, then that means something is not clicking. Therefore, we need to change something and you to change into a different universe. As Ntebu said, parallel universe exists all the time. Maybe the one that you are on might not be working for you. And if you think you're going to work harder than you are doing, maybe that's not it. All you need to is spend time in the being and we will tell you what are some of the things that you do in the being for you to attract things. 4 things that I want to cover here. I will spend 5 minutes or 4 minutes on each. The first one, just a quick introduction. Dr. Joe, if you are in Teus network, you're already in my network. I've got a whole lot of tools that I've acquired over the years. I was in my retirement state. Only Teus is the one who's able to resuscitate me and say, come on, let's go help the people, because people need help. The world needs help. They need you and me. So all the people who are now at Chisanyama shopping, they need me and you to assist them. Basically, I do 2 things like most of you. I'm trying to juggle too many balls. I'm privileged to be a campus principal here for CUT. I like working for smaller campuses that have potential. I work for Welcome Campus. And then I always fly my own flag. Millionaire mindset. I'm assuming you're doing the same. All of us start as employees. Wherever you are, make sure you spend some time on your own flagship, on your own something. Sometimes they call it a side hustle, so that you push it. So there's a job, there's work. The work that you are born to do, the job, jump out of bed to go do something. It's not sustainable. Too much politics. Most of the time, if you last 3 years, you are great. But remember, millionaire identity require that you start working so that you can at least buy bread and then push your hustle. Now, once you do that, you're going to face this problem that we are facing all the time, and all the people that I coach. We tell you that for you to be successful, you need to find one idea, focus on it, and be known for that one thing. I mean, you know, the Tiger Woods of this world wakes up, golf. Serena Williams, privileged, you know, that tennis was her thing and went that way. Unfortunately, me and you are not privileged to be exposed to all different things. When we grew up, our parents force us into a system of just focusing on school, and school corners you into all these things that we become, and we are never exposed. Now, most people realize that sometimes following one thing doesn't work. You are gifted with a whole lot of gifts now. Most people that we coach at the beginning is, Dr. Joe, I love this, I love this. Which one should I go for? Because majority of people are stuck in jobs that don't resonate with them at all. We call that misplaced passion. You are gifted as a caterer. You're supposed to be cooking and serving food to the world, but you are stuck in the office as an admin. You will be in trouble for a very long time, depressed, no success. So this is one of the questions that we deal with. How do I integrate? The way I did that, and when I coach you, I say, okay, tell me the 3 things that you think you are good at. And there are a lot of assessment that we do in the background. When I did that exercise myself, I said, I love education. I love science. I love innovation. If I say, show me testimony that you love that thing, then I show you, okay, I've spent so much time doing this and that. I spend so much time studying. The second thing I love coaching. I love developing people. It just bring my juices on, and then I can show you evidence that I've been doing this. And then how do I then get my groove on? I see things. My third eye has opened somewhere along the way. I inherited Gogo's gifts. Most of you who are here, I bet you come from a lineage and a background of people back in the years who were healers, who have special gifts. But our system has taught us that that stuff is evil. Drop it in the dustbin and focus on Jesus. Yes, Jesus is there, but there are other non-human spiritual entities that have different types of gifts. Don't underwrite them. So some of the professionals I coach, I talk to them to find out where they come from, where they're going, and how can you harness that gift if you have it. And then I spend some time exercising in the gym. By the way, I also have a 6-pack, yes, because you need a lot of energy. You need to take care of your health, because your body is a container of this gift that you have inside. And then I love music. I'm a DJ. So now if you come to me and we unpack this, we say, okay, either you are able to pick one of this and shine at if you are that type of person. If not, how do you integrate? And then we start to integrate. So when you work, you end up doing something like this. So, but if you put me in a corner and say, but what's your one thing? I know being around young people, sharing information. That's why I had to leave the corporate world where I was pushing targets and numbers, which was not fulfilling, and took a job in a university setup so that I'm exposed to young people. So you sacrifice big income, but then you prioritize fulfillment and purpose, but at the same time, you have liberty to do other things because you're not locked up down in this corporate type of environment. Then I went into coaching, and then most of my coaching, there are different products that I do, but all I wanted to impress upon you was that you guys are what I will consider to be in my 5% club. Ntebu is. Normally, it takes a lot of time, ladies and gentlemen, to hone your skill. You're not going to attend one seminar and think it's gone. So we've got inspiring greatness things that we do. We've got the 5% club where I work with Ntebu and many others. There's one-on-one coaching. There's enterprise development. So that's a suite of things. It takes me 1.5 hours. So my first coaching session that I work with, I unpack this model to say, what is this? What is what? Then it takes a 1.5 hour. But what I wanted to impress upon you is most people are not ready for change. That's why you see at the beginning there, if you start with 100 people at the beginning, or if you say, I'm going to do an event, 100 people might respond and say, we will come, we will come. Come the day of the event, you'll see 5 people showing up, just like they've done in this platform. Even last Saturday, I had another man here in my community who wanted to launch his books, an older guy. Dr. Joe, can you give me an auditorium? I want the biggest one. I've got 5 books. I'm going to fill it up. I said, okay, let's start using my boardroom. It can accommodate 15 people. If there's an overflow, we will move. Guess what? There were 5 people there. And he was so disappointed. But me understanding the game, I said more than 2 is a number. Let's continue. Most people are not ready to wake up. They will wake up at their own time. Now, so I've got many different products. I will just touch on a few of them, ladies and gentlemen. If you are here and you continue with us, you're going to get exposed to all this content. Don't you worry. But what I want to talk about today is when you start with the first one. So the first 5 interventions, as Ntewu said, it's all about you. Before you even talk about millions and everything, you have to do the internal work, because everything that you need to live at the zenith of your potential is already in you. It's like when you take a pumpkin seed, you don't teach it how to become a better pumpkin. It's already encoded in the DNA, in the spirit, everything. It just needs to find the right support, somebody who's going to nurture water, somebody who's going to put it in the right environment, and then it will blossom. If you put it on the windowsill, it's not going to happen. If you're in the wrong company, if you're surrounded by wrong people, nothing much will happen. Those people will put you down. They will criticize your ideas, and nothing's going to happen. So in that type of intervention, quickly, the kind of things that we do is we start to acknowledge that even though life is secular, the beginning, the end, the now are all happening at the same time. But our minds see it in different phases. So in the future, you have to develop a clear plan of what is it that you want. If we say, do you have a vision? What do you want? Do you have goals written down? 90% of people don't, and then we assist you with those. Then at the back where you're coming from in the past is all pains. We all are wounded soldiers, all of us, some worse than others. And you think your story is worse until you hear what other people have went through. You will thank God. But you have to live in the present, as Ntewu said. We are in the now. The other 2 constructs are all mental. They really don't exist in reality. It's all in the mind. You cannot move now and say, I'm in the future or I'm in the past. It's all mental. It's all recorded mentally. But you live in the now. We have to vibrate at the highest vibrational frequency. So most people, they don't have a clear vision, misaligned purpose, doing things that they're not supposed to be doing. It's a very confused brand. In the past, really a lot of unresolved pain and, I've got a program, I call it Breaking the Cage. So currently your family, the biggest cause of problems. Black tax, they'll be dependent on you. This is in the now. And then you'll sacrifice yourself, your time, taking care of people you believe they love you, and they are the people who are going to bring you down. For some relatives, generational curses. And then when we finish school, we start taking all these loans. And then before you know it, you can't even quit your job because you are bonded because if I can just pay. Then you develop these inner insecurities. You start doubting yourself. Things are falling apart. Then you attract all these spiritual things: jealous manager, jealous husband, witches, baloi. Yeah, those people are there. If you don't believe it, ask me. I've seen things fly that I didn't think can fly. See pig in the sky there. Criminals, they just come and steal your stuff, not other people. Why? Diseases come to you, not other people, because you are now vibrating at a low vibrational frequency instead of being high. And at the lowest vibrational frequency, where you are bonded, where you are caged, you are trapped. Majority of the people are in this state. That's why even anything that will enlighten them, they don't see it. They're just trying to get out of the cage. They're just trying to make that next payment. As Maslow said, they're living at the bottom of the pyramid. And they will say this very clearly. It's all about vibration. Stephen Hawking says most people are barely at the 200 mark. If you drop your vibration, you are angry with somebody who has done you wrong, you're now vibrating at the low vibrational frequency. That's where the witches play. If you go down, you will be hammered. Regardless of what's happening in your situation, you must keep the faith, live in the end, live as if what you want has already materialized, vibrate love, joy, enlightenment, and live that you are living in a different world, regardless of your situation. You will see you will finally attract it. Bob Proctor says that very well. So when we do this program, there are 10 different things that we look at, from your name, background, crucibles, many other things that we unpack, because we really need to understand, where do you come from? Because if you don't do the same or that reflection, you're going to repeat the same problem. And at the end, we draw your life a grammatic story. This is a typical of mine. You have a plan. You thought by the time I'm 80, I'll be successful, 10 million, or whatever, how you measure success. And when you say go, the actual, fewer. But those lowest moments are where the transformational moments happen. Either you are divorced, either you lost your job, either they've stolen. That is where the universe is speaking to you. It says, wake up, take time. Unfortunately, most people don't stop and reflect, and they tend to repeat the very same thing. So we draw this thing, timeline, age, where are your successes, where you are, and we refine them and we find moments. So when I did mine, there I failed. That shifted me from one universe to the other. Because when I failed, I thought I was smart. I went to vets, and when I got there, came with A's and B's, failed my first year. I said, God, this can't. When I transformed my life from there, I never had to pay a penny. I think I spent 14 years at the university, bursaries, went overseas to study, never paid. So that was my first transformational. I had another one where my father and my brother passed in 6 months apart. Then I was left with my mother and 3 sisters. Then I had to become a big brother, responsible to take care of them. I shifted again to a different universe. Most terrible one of them all was when I got divorced, got mobbed, got scammed, almost 400,000, almost 3 months apart. I was at the verge of death. That also shifted me to a different parallel universe. Then the recent one was where they hijacked me at gunpoint, and I had to deal with a tenant who hijacked my building, my property. I've got properties that I'm renting. He didn't want to get out. I even almost lost the property. Now, when I work with you, we map this, and you have to be at a stage where you are openly able to share your crucibles with people. And then once you do this, you own up. You own, because you are the one who contributed. You move from blame game to taking ownership. Khalil Gibran has a nice poem where he says, much of your pain is self-chosen. For the sake of time, I won't play that poem. And then we go through a healing process. Let me go to the second one. The second one, you see the program is called Finding Your Sweet Spot Success Model. Nicely packed. There's a flow on how things are happening. When we talk about the knowledge millionaire, by then you would have done at least 2 or so in the personal development. Because if you start with those and you don't do the self-reflection, you don't do your keeping healthy and young, eating well, gymming, exercise, and many others, you strengthen your speaking and your presentation thing, you align with your spiritual source, because we are spiritual beings. There are universal principles and spiritual laws that you have to abide to, and so forth. A little bit on that before we go. So here we say, first thing you have to we spend most of our time in preparation phase, learning. I ask you, what have you been learning? What did you learn since you started learning until now? What kind of content are you consuming? Yeah. Employment, where are you working? Who's paying you? What? If you're not employed, you're self-employed. If you're not self-employed, you have a business. If business, you're an investor. And you also need to have a foundation, because a foundation is a mechanism to give back to the community. You don't have to wait to have money. The little that you give. So this is what we call a millionaire identity, a millionaire mindset. Now we map. And when I map mine, I say, okay, these are the things that I studied. This is what I've done. I can show you trail and why I did what, how I transitioned from what to what. Now we do yours. So after you go through the program, and they will to explain some of the programs, you will be able to draw your story very nicely and so forth. In my self-employed, of course, I'm Dr. Joy Performance Academy. They invite me to speak. I train, I coach, I consult. They pay me. CUT pay me. I've got businesses, some of them indicated there, where there are employees who are working, and as an investor and as a foundation. Now you can say this is not a millionaire identity, a millionaire process. Now we map them nicely for you as well. Say, what skills or passion do you have that you can start self-employed? You are a freelancer, basically. Self-employed as means you have to be there for the work to happen. If you are not there, the work can't happen, so forth. And then the next thing, now you have to take your brand digitally. And the work we do there is you need to now start developing content and branding and marketing yourself. So you have to generate interest. People need to know about you. Sales. I'm just sharing frameworks, and we are moving fast, and just sharing with you the models that we use. You will have time to go into the details. 3 things that you need. And then to generate interest, you have to grow, and those are some of the mechanisms to grow. To generate sales, you have to have some authority. People need to know about you. And then you have to now generate loyalty, have specific small members. So this is like a close group of members. We can talk amongst ourselves, get to know each other, then approach a big corporate clients as a group jointly, so that we can go build significant money. So this is one of those models that we unpack, and unpack it for others. Someone asked me, yeah, but you're unpacking this. I Googled you. I didn't see anything. No, I deliberately decided to get out of social media so that I can do myself things privately. So I'm not on social media. If you Google me, you'll see things I've done 10, 15 years ago, and it was a deliberate choice for a story that I will tell you another day. So some of the flagship programs that I have that I will assist you to unpack, working with you, and are those. Now I'm just impressing you that you unpack it, and you have to go through a very refined process over a long period of time. So you see the flagship programs where I do shows, interview people, and then keynote speaking, coaching. Everyone here, you should be a speaker, by the way. I know you're a professional. You should have your training material. You should be coaching. You should be consulting. If you're not doing any of those 4 things, the question is, why not? What are you waiting for? Maybe you were waiting for us to get to here so that we can assist you. Now we are here. What excuse do you have now? And then once we start getting to know each other, I will invite you to some of those membership things where we can do some work together. Finally, the next 3 slides. Neville Goddard says, everyone should be living at the zenith of their potential. But there are 2 things that are limiting you. 1, the weakness of attention. I had to reflect deeply as to what does that mean. That means you are focusing on just too many things, and you're not honing into the work you're born to do. Number 2, poverty of imagination. You are just thinking within the constraints. You self-doubt. You don't know that you can go better and bigger. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, it's all about choices. All the universe exists. But if you are stuck in something that is not resonating with you, you need to move. No point in knocking and knocking and knocking the door is not opening. Seek and you are not finding. Why are you still there? I mean, Wu Wei concept says you should be going in smooth flow. Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi talks about concept of flow, that things are supposed to flow effortlessly. If you're experiencing a crucible, it's really a wake-up call. The pains that come to you, welcome them because they are awakening you to something bigger. Yours, I mean, I sit here, I don't market, I don't send CV. A call comes and say, hey, Dr. Joe, I'm advertising this post. Would you consider it? I'm putting the spec together. I'll let you know when it's out. Okay, let's see. Hey, Dr. Joe, a company somewhere needs somebody to coach. Would you consider going to do some? Okay, why are they coming to me? Because I had to go through a whole lot of refining, a whole lot of preparing myself, a whole lot of aligning with the universal consciousness. They say 90% of the people live having used 10% of their potential, and that should not be you. So strive for alignment. Be, they will said it very well, heart set, mindset, and guide set. Guide set. Your feelings, your emotion, your thinking, your actions all have to align. If you think one thing, I want to lose weight, then the action that you take is to run to a McDonald's that contradicts with what you want. And then you know very well you're just living a nightmare life without no alignment. And then we talk about the 3 gaps. Which is the biggest gap? Is it Maxwell who talk about the first gap? People know, you all know what you need to do, but you don't have the guts to do it. You know for sure. Your problem is not knowing. So when we coach you, we look at really what is preventing you. What are the gaps that are preventing you from becoming a millionaire? For some people, it's the gap number 1. I know what I need to do, but I've got excuses. I don't have time. I'm busy. I don't have. Now we need to work on that. Some people really are working very hard. They're doing things, but they don't have time to reflect, to find out, why am I doing what I'm doing? The gap number 2, and then we have to stop what you're doing, pause, start writing things down, reflect, send letters to the universe, as Cynthia was saying, so that you can now align. Then maybe the third gap is you are not living at the end. You are reflecting, but you're living in the present moment. You must live in the end. Neville Goddard says, live in the end. Let me not waste time. Vision, we visualize, we internalize, live as if what we want has already manifested. You strategize, you initiate and take action. You have to overcome and anticipate challenges because they will come, and then necessitate.
And he said, your income will immediately start to change. Up until then, I was hoping that the economy would change. I was hoping that my company would change. I was hoping that my paycheck could change. I was hoping that circumstances outside would change. Then here's what I found out. It isn't going to change. So then my question was, if it isn't going to change, how will my life ever change? And here's what my teacher taught me. When you change, everything will change for you. When you get better, everything will get better for you. And that's where I picked up that phrase. For things to change, you've got to change. You don't have to change the marketplace. You don't have to change the marketing plan. You don't have to change the economy. You don't have to change countries. You don't have to change circumstances out there. All you've got to do is look within and see if you can change yourself for the better. And as you change, things will start to change for you.
I thank you for listening. Hopefully there was some nugget somewhere, somehow that will help you. I know I went through things very fast, but I just wanted to share some framework on things that you need to do to position yourself to embrace that millionaire mindset. It's a lot of work, but I'm very confident that you can do it, and we are here to support you. Thank you for listening.
Incredible, Dr. Joe. Thank you so much for sharing that. That was so powerful. I think even the lights went out in my space, which means vibrationally you are at a different place. But thank you so much, and thank you for closing up with that beautiful video, which for me was the one thing that really shifted everything. Work harder on yourself than you do on your job. It's such a different spin to what most of us have been taught. And I see beautiful faces like Chantal, which I've worked with before. So I'm so excited to see people that have such high potential like her in this call, because I think the more we do this work, and I'm hoping that people that are also on this call realize that there's a reason you are here. there's a reason your energy was vibrated to this sort of work, because this sort of work is not, a lot of people are still not awake, they're still in a sleep. And when you're called to this kind of work, that means there's so much value that you're also called to provide to others. So I'm so glad that you're here. I hope that you will trust the process and you will keep coming back until you unfold and really tap into your greatness. So thank you so much, Dr. Joe. I love your spin, and I love how you sort of said some of the things that we really also spoke about, but in a different context, in a different tone, in a different energy. And that's a beautiful thing around when you get coaching, right? Because you can look at things from different lenses. So thanks, Dr. Joe. Now we move on to another equally exciting session with Miss Tato. I will not introduce her. I'm hoping that as she chats, she'll do that as well. But another amazing. Thanks, Tato. Take it over.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good evening, rather. My navigation on Zoom is not my favorite, so just give me a sec while I get my bearings and get my video on so you can put a face to the name. Please confirm if you can see me and hear me, because I can't see myself right now.
Yes, we can see you. We can hear you, beautiful Tato.
Fantastic. Thank you very much for the opportunity and for the invitation, Debo and the Dinaledi Institute, and also just the mind-blowing, incredible content that you and Dr. Joe have prepared for us this afternoon. I am incredibly honored to be in such great company. I will go off camera because, like I said, Zoom is not my preferred platform. I'm usually on Teams, which I get my configurations much better on. So I will continue presenting, but if you don't mind, you'll just get my voice. And then please be engaged if you want to ask questions. If you feel that I'm moving too rapidly, stop me. Let's have a conversation about it, because that's how I've crafted the content at Ndebo's invitation. And yeah, just to proceed, a quick introduction as to who are you speaking to. My name is Tato Ndaba. I am a mom. I'm an award-winning conversation strategist. I'm also a human capital leader. If you do want to get in contact with me, LinkedIn is usually your best bet. And I'm hoping to share some insights about the millionaire mindset and your millionaire mindset. Leveraging off of the content that Dr. Joe and Debu have sort of put a foundation on about. I've got over 20 years experience in the human capital space, specifically in L&D, but currently I'm leading a team of human capital practitioners for an ICT entity. And I do lead with being a mom, because I think with relation to today's topic, that is the catalyst for everything that I do. And my parenting is one of my greatest accolades. I don't get any awards for that, so I celebrate myself in that respect. And it is unusual for people, because in corporate, people want to talk about, their academic achievements and exploits, as well as their awards and accolades. Those you can get off my LinkedIn page, but I am a mom of 3 beautiful human beings, and my primary goal in life is making sure that they are unwounded, they are kind, and they have impact in the world. So moving on, if I can navigate better. So what is the whole idea behind this? Effectively, mine is just to emphasize and amplify what has already been shared with us this afternoon. And I think that it is important to share that in order for you to truly unlock your potential, you need to embrace the power within you. So you need to utilize tools like journaling, vision boards, to assist you in sort of keeping you in check with that. But you are effectively the co-creator of your own destiny and your dreams. And just to, take off from what Ndebo shared earlier, your limiting beliefs, and I think Dr. Joe ended with that as well, they are the hindrance. So basically the only thing that is preventing you from achieving anything that you set your mind to do is you and your thoughts and your actions. So how then are you going to reverse that? And how do you tap into yourself to create this millionaire version of yourself? How do you create this parallel universe where you exist as a millionaire? Because all of it is already in play. You have everything that it takes to become a millionaire. So my position on that, I will share some stories about myself. As I said, I've got over 20 years experience in this. I speak about it, I teach about it, I invite people and I share at every opportunity, be it in churches, be it in learnership programs that I design, be it in leadership development programs that I design, be it in executive coaching efforts that I participate in. I really just want to ensure that people understand, and if they take nothing else from what I speak about, just understand that you are actually the co-creator of your destiny. And who are you co-creating this with? It depends on your positioning and where you're at in terms of your spirituality. But basically, whoever you call God, whatever you call him or her, universe, mother nature, source, depending on your place in the universe. But that is the person that you need to partner with in order for you to get into this millionaire existence, which is already there. If I were to make reference to a Christian reference, one of my favorite verses in the Bible is Jeremiah 29:11, where God says that, "For I know the plans I have for you, plans to prosper you and not to harm you." And that is something that I think you can use as a foundation if you're that way inclined. But understanding that even before you were born, even when you were a concept, even before your parents were born, God knew that a person such as yourself would exist. And God knew exactly what your life is going to look like from the second that you cried after leaving your mom's womb until the second that you take your last breath. He knows every single second of your life and has a plan to prosper you, right? So how then do you ensure that God's plan comes to pass? It's up to you. And what do? I use motivational tools. So things like vision boards. People are expecting an external force to shift who you are and where you are in your life, when in actual fact, every single thing that you need in order for you to succeed resides within you already. And how do you tap into that? You need to dial in. And how do you dial in? You can use tools like journaling. I believe journaling is the most simple. You don't need anything else. You need a notebook. You don't need a fancy journal. I do prefer to have pretty beautiful journals that you can get from Typo, but in a resource scarce existence that we have in Cyril's economy, as the 2000s would refer to, sometimes you want to remove things that people can perceive as hindrances. Take a notebook wherever you can find it. Take a piece of paper. You can take excess from your children's stationery list if you have that. If all you have is sticky notes, that's enough. What you have is already enough. And what you have is all you need to plant the seed to amplify your existence into your next. So what do you then put in these journals and vision boards? So I think that the quickest way and what has worked for me is to make it a practice. Like Dr. Joe referred to some golf players, Tiger Woods, tennis players, tennis champions, Serena Williams. They practice, and their success lies in their practice. Yes, there's an innate talent that you have, but talent without practice is just that. And you end up being part of the 90% of people that die without having achieved what they were set out to achieve in the world. So in order for you to get into the habit of becoming a millionaire and shifting your mindset to that of a millionaire, you need to put it into practice. So I would encourage that, at least for the first year, just journal daily, document your thoughts on a daily basis, and then reflect on them. So I do a morning and an afternoon, morning and evening. First thing in the morning when I wake up, I do gratitude. And I'm grateful for health. I'm grateful for my children. I'm grateful for my employment. I'm grateful for the impact that I have in the universe. I'm grateful for relationships. Whatever it is, it can be as trivial or as magnificent as you perceive it to be, but write it down. Because if you don't write your thoughts down, you won't be able to get the clarity that is required for you to actually shift your existence. So get into the habit of journaling daily, and you need to also clarify what it is that you're journaling about. So not just rambles. In the beginning, it will feel a bit facetious and it will feel different, like exercise, like any new habit that you get into. In the beginning, you're thinking, oh my gosh, what am I doing? Why? This doesn't make sense. And you'll find yourself rambling. So there are various tools or techniques that you can apply. In this instance, you can do bullet points. So you can do 5 things I'm grateful for, 5 things I'm hoping to achieve today, and 5 things that I want to learn. Because I think a curiosity is also a necessity in enabling you to shift and get the required skills and habits to get you to become a millionaire and think like a millionaire. So in the first year, and these timelines are also just guidelines, and they're not hard and fast. They're not prescriptive. They are just informative. So you can find and get into something that works into your flow and works into your groove, and you become familiar with it, and something that you can also maintain. So the first year, as I said, do it daily, clarify your intentions, and then that will also give you sort of a framework. So what is it that you're wanting to achieve from this? And when you're reading and reflecting back, it's something that you can also ascertain how far you've come in your journals. A quick story, I found a journal of mine from when I was in standard 6. So I'm old enough to have been in standard 6 and not grade 8. But the things that I was writing about that have actually come to pass, I feel is a testimony that I'd like to share with you if you will allow me. I've always been intentional about parenting, so in my journal when I was in standard 6, I wrote about how in the next 25 years, my life would look a certain way. And having found this, I think I got it in January when I went back home to the Eastern Cape. And my mom keeps everything. My mother keeps my first shoe that I had from 1984. She still has it. So I'm grateful for her in enabling me to have this testimony to share with you guys today. But it was just so refreshing for me to think that as a 16-year-old, I wasn't 16, I was 14. As a 14-year-old, I was reflecting and thinking about who I would be as a 42-year-old, and as a mom. And I was very clear that, and this is what my day would look like. I'd take my kids to school in the morning and I'd work in an office that looked like that. And I would be in a city that was bigger than Port Elizabeth, which I seem to have gotten that right. And I'd be working in a company that has impact and doing work that changes people's lives. At the time, I'd wanted to be a psychologist. That hasn't quite turned out that way, but I am doing almost everything else that I had imagined and manifested as a 14-year-old. So just write whatever it is, and it doesn't need to make sense to you at that time, but I can guarantee you, and in sharing this testimony with you, I can guarantee you that when you reflect, you will actually look back and realize that you have actually co-created the life of your dreams and your destiny. So in the second year, I would then recommend that you develop a vision board for inspiration and for focus, because then after clarifying your intentions, you would have established what it is that you're wanting to achieve, and then you need to break it down, right? You need to set yourself some goals. So a vision board for me is a very strong tool because it gives you a picture. And I mean, the brain works much better in picture. Words and pictures together, they give you that framework that you can sort of get your senses involved in as much as possible, right? It creates an experience for you. So when you develop that vision board, again, doesn't need to be fancy. You don't need to be creating hindrances for you. So, no, where am I going to get magazines? Or I don't know how to picture this. Just put it into 4 blocks, put it into 4 quadrants. One would be your personal life, your career, your health and wellness, as well as your mental health. And then place pictures that make sense for you. And you can use tools like Pinterest, and you can use tools like Canva. So you don't need to necessarily cut out the pictures. I still prefer to do a physical cut out vision board session at the beginning of the year that I reflect on every quarter. So I'm about to do my second review next month, and take pictures and then just decide what it is that you want to achieve. So put a picture about, if you want to lose weight, if that's what you're after, if you want to gain weight, if that's what you're after, if you want to just have a healthier lifestyle, introduce exercise or mindfulness and yoga or anything that's going to give you time with self, because that is very important. If you don't take care of the vessel, you won't be able to achieve the things that you want to do. The body is a tool for you to actually get this millionaire life that you are manifesting and creating. Then I've already mentioned the recommendation that I've got for year 3, where you reflect on your achievements and you adjust your goals regularly. So, for example, myself, again, a personal testimony, my intention was to be happily married, with living the dream life with a partner and kids and, 2.5 kids and a double income household and living in an estate, etc., etc. Unfortunately, life does not necessarily work out that way, but it has worked out for the better. So I am no longer married. I was married for a brief period, about 10 years, and subsequently no longer married, but I'm living a pretty much picture perfect life with my children, and I've achieved all the things that I have set out to do, and those have all been documented in some form of a vision board over the years. And as I mentioned again, you can do it physically or you can do it digitally, and there are various tools that you can just Google vision board template on Canva. Something beautiful will come up, and it will even give you recommendations of suggested images, or you can see what other people have done and how have they packaged their vision boards on these various tools. And then I store mine because I also use my friends as accountability partners. So we do a group one, and we're saying in the next 5 years, in the next 10 years, this is what we want to achieve. And I think that is very important. While it is a journey of self, being accountable or having someone that is going to help you stay true to the plan is the catalyst for the success. Or so it's been for me. So I have a group Pinterest vision board that I share with a very good friend of mine, and we go over it annually. So we don't do it frequently, but we do it annually. And then we're saying, are we still on track? Is there things that you need to adjust? So when I got divorced, for example, I moved a few things, like a few pictures of happy family. My family modified a little bit, but the rest of the stuff we really have been keeping each other in check. And it's also very nice to reflect and see how well you've succeeded and celebrate it with someone that is like-minded. And then in the fourth year, I would also then say in your journal, you would embrace all the continuous pattern of journaling and a style that works for you and in a way that helps you just reflect and see how far you come in that journey. Your vision board, I've put in a 5-year journey instead of a 4-year journey for your vision board. So like I said, just start by creating a vision board. It can be as easy as using a tool and an app on your phone, because most of us have got smartphones and smart handsets. I always say that I am so grateful to be living in a reality where technology can be an enabler for everything. Like we've got the entire world in the palms of our hands. It's just, do we really have the appetite or the capability or the skills to make use of this world and access it and use it to catapult us to the life of our dreams? So the second year, then you'd visualize your goals to boost your motivation. So you'd be a little bit more specific about certain things that you want to achieve. Just an example of that happening in the past 2 years for me, I was very intentional about how I'd want my career to pivot. So for the bulk of my 24 years in corporate, I've been specializing in learning and development. And I mean, I've done anything, name it. I've created courses, I've created content, I've facilitated courses, I've traveled the entire sub-Saharan and even to the East, delivering content, writing content. And then I thought, you know what, I'm not as impactful as I would like. I am touching lives, but I really feel that for where I am in my life right now, the travel is a bit too much, because my focus is also just being a present mother for my children. To say, you know, I want to be specific about when I travel. I want to lead a team and then direct people in order to achieve the organizational goals. I want to assist strategy and inform strategy, develop strategy for organizations to do that. And I was very explicit in describing that and putting it in my vision board. So I had an airplane, and then I wrote ×2 max in a year. Don't want to see an airport more than twice in a year. And then I also mentioned working in ICT, because I think South Africa specifically is well positioned, but we're not really taking advantage of our position in the continent and in the globe in terms of influencing what's happening in the tech space, more in the artificial intelligence and machine learning. So those were the things that I put in my vision board, I think at the end of 2023. Last year, I was invited to be a speaker. I'm speaking on AI in the South African context and in the human capital space. And when I reflected back in that quarter after that invitation, I was blown away by just how exact the things that I asked for or things that I positioned in my vision board came to pass. So, you know, you need to just review it and update it regularly. You also just need to use it to motivate you, because sometimes things get a bit dull and quiet and you feel like, why am I here? Is my work impactful? What am I doing? And you have like these reflective moments and a bit of self-doubt, sometimes imposter syndrome. Your vision board then would be your personal pep talk. It would be like your personal leader that will remind you that you are actually doing phenomenally well. You are achieving all the things that you are anticipating or had written about. And then also sharing your vision with others. I mentioned in my previous segment that I do have an accountability partner. It needs to be someone that gets it. And what I mean by that, I think Debo mentioned it in the beginning of a segment, that there's certain influences, societal, socioeconomical, and just even family influences that become the voices in our heads. So you end up having these beliefs, but you don't even know where they stem from. So you need to get someone that is aligned with the vision that you have. They understand it, they won't speak it down. Even if they don't understand it, they'll still be able to help you amplify it and not negate it. So having that vision with someone that will keep you going, it will be like your fuel on the days when things aren't really going as you had anticipated. And then for the last bit, then you need to achieve, when you achieve your dreams, you need to celebrate those successes. So my team knows me for celebrating everything. If someone, you know, hits their target on a personal base, someone in my team is running comrades in the next 9 days. So they've been tracking their personal base. They come in, they celebrate it. I buy cake. Okay, it's a bit counterintuitive for a person that runs to celebrate cake, but cake is great celebrating him and his achievements. So he'll have a smoothie while the rest of the team has cake. So I celebrate absolutely everything. It doesn't matter how trivial it may seem to others. For me, it's just that affirmation that I have achieved and I have done what I have intended to do. Being cognizant of time, I'm going to move a little bit faster, but this is almost my last slide. Basically, I think that you need to be able to identify what your golden keys are, what symbolizes success to you. You need to be able to identify opportunities for you to tap into and step into these rooms and affirm yourself. So those are the golden keys that I'm referring to here. When you journal, using it as a tool, you need to reflect and plan. So it's a planning tool, but it's also a tool that enables you to reflect and celebrate the things that you have achieved. The vision board is just the visual representation of the things that you're journaling and the things that you are manifesting. And then also using motivational quotes wherever you find them. So Pinterest, I do celebrate and talk about Pinterest as well. Be careful of what you consume, because social media, as I said, can be an enabler, or tech can be an enabler, but it can also be an hindrance. So I personally do not consume current affairs in the clinical way. So I don't follow any of the news channels. I will go and take what I want. And that came from the COVID sessions during the COVID years, when it was high peak and all you got in the news was how many people had died and how many people had been infected. And I realized how it impacted my mental health. So I was forever in the state of fear and wondering, like, what's happening with my parents and who's got a comorbidity. And I was always very anxious about it. And then I decided one day, in actual fact, I don't want to listen to this. I want to talk about the success stories. So I just unfollowed everything. I stopped watching the news. I don't follow any of the platforms on my social media. And then I chose that, there was an Australian physician that was very pro natural health and solutioning for COVID from a natural perspective. And I found that content very encouraging. So shifting that mindset and shifting what I consumed, I became more intentional in all respects, not just from the COVID perspective, not just from a health perspective, but in every respect. So I don't watch TV much as well. I choose what I consume. I follow people that I feel are fueling my mindset and are like-minded. I follow TED Talks specifically about things that I'm interested in. I follow influencers in the space like Mo Gordon in the AI space. So basically, you need to identify things that are going to encourage you and enable you to succeed and enable you to attain this millionaire mindset. And then being a millionaire comes much easier. And I do say that with the awareness of the socioeconomic disparities of this country, but it is very possible for you to become a millionaire in South Africa right now if you put your mind to it, and if you align with the right people that enable your thinking, and if you're also very intentional about the practices and the things that you do. Okay, so in conclusion, I've put this crossword here because I think teamwork for me is the catalyst, and teamwork in this instance would be being aligned with people, taking time on a Friday afternoon to tap in and fuel yourself and sharpen your saw, if I were to quote Steve Covey. So teamwork for me then would mean trust, partnership, sharing, harmonizing, using your network to collaborate and support you, and actually putting in the work, because without putting in the work, nothing will happen. So you can journal all you like, but if you don't take the opportunities that are presented to you, it won't result in anything. If you don't collaborate with like-minded people or partnering with people that are in the similar space, you won't know what is happening out there. You may not necessarily be mentioned in those opportunities. If you don't have harmony with self and with the universe, and you're not causing harm to others, so all of these components have got a meaning. And I think it's something that you can use as an ingredient towards this recipe of success, and they will enable you to become the millionaire that you are destined to become. And you can co-create and design this future of your life that you imagine, and you can make it come to pass. Thank you very much. I am very cognizant of time and respectful of it. So thank you for the opportunity. And I'll take any questions if anyone has, but if not, I shall end my sharing there.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you. Thank you so much, Tato. Tato is a fireball. If you don't know her, she's like one of the ladies that I know that had to continuously reinvent herself. She is a powerful force, and the more you get to know her, actually, you will just vibrate on a high level. So thank you so much, Tato. That was amazing. And it's such a beautiful mix, right? From just some of the frameworks that we shared, some of the stories that we've gone through, and then now you giving very, very clear tactical elements that one can start using in terms of transforming into this millionaire identity. And I really do want to emphasize just the criticality of journaling and vision boarding, because I also used to dismiss it. Like, I know someone in my team was just saying this morning, the other thing with, journaling is, what if you write your biggest secrets there and then someone finds it, right? But the power of being able to clean up all the clusters that's happening in your mind, put it down together, organize it, and then you can start cleaning out, right? It's a matter of, like, I think Dr. Joe showed a very beautiful picture around different doors being available, right? You can't step out of one door into another without doing the work and just letting go of all those mental clutters. So amazing. Thank you, team.
Okay, just to emphasize that bit about if someone finds your biggest dreams, the fact is, I always maintain that I don't mind sharing ideas. And I think what I took from Dr. Joe's presentation as well, he was so giving of the frameworks and stuff and things like that. That content belongs to him, it's his IP. But without him, it doesn't make sense to anyone. So similarly, you can write your biggest, wildest dreams in your journal. You can even specify how you want to do it. But without you, that thing won't happen to the magnitude that it should. So you are the secret ingredient to your own success. So don't use that limiting belief, because that's a fear-based belief. What if someone finds it? Or what if someone doesn't think it's good enough? Or what if someone doesn't believe in my capabilities or my ability to achieve this thing? If you believe it, it's as good as done. If you believe it, it's as good as done. So yeah, without taking further time, thank you very much. And I hope everyone has a fantastic weekend.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Tato. Guys, thank you so much for staying through. We have some wild, amazing programs that we have built in for you that we wanted to take time to just share. But I think I'm just looking at time and I'm just thinking the value of then choking this in your sphere so late. I think we will park it and discuss it with you guys in our next meeting, and probably also share some of these exciting programs in our WhatsApp channel, in our emailers, so that we just give you time back, right? Because I think there was a lot of content to also take through. But I think what was a strong message across all the three speakers is that this all starts with awareness, starting with self, doing the internal work first, and you cannot do that internal work in this 2 hours. So that's why you do need to deep dive into programs. And I'm actually so proud of myself that I've invested myself over hundreds and thousands of rands just to get myself into this level. And what that starts doing is start shaping my reality. I am proud to say that I've gotten into the millionaire sort of benchmark, even from a currency point of view. So not just speaking about identity, talking about how I've manifested and creating it. So this stuff works. And I know people in this team are going to go far as long as we push through and we allow ourselves to be the limitless beings we are. So thank you so much for all your insights. Hoping to see you in our next masterclass or in some of our awesome programs that are coming up. Thanks, everyone. Have a happy Friday. Bye.
Thank you,
all.
Team, beautiful team. We'll catch up later. But thank you so much. Have an amazing weekend. Bye.